I'm going to tell you about some scams to watch out for when you travel to Washington, D.C. Hello, my name is Rob. I'm a tour guide and the founder of Trip Hacks DC Tours. On this channel, I share my best tips, tricks, and hacks for exploring Washington, D.C. And over at triphacksdc.com, you'll find info about tours and more. One thing you need to watch out for when you travel, no matter where in the world you're going, are people who want to take advantage of out-of-towners. Now, the good news is that Washington, D.C. has a relatively small number of tourist scams, but that doesn't mean there aren't any at all. So in this video, I'm going to tell you about the ones that I have seen as a D.C. tour guide, and more importantly, how you can avoid losing your money to these con artists. But before I do that, what I need you to do is make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon so that you don't miss any future Washington, D.C. travel videos. With that said, let's get started. The first scam on this list is the 2 10s for a 20 scam. The way that this works is pretty simple. Someone will approach you out in public and ask if they can trade you their $20 bill for 2 10s. If you agree, you will give them 2 $10 bills and they will give you a 20. But then they will quickly swap one of your 10s for a $1 bill and claim that you actually only gave them $11. Since a 1 and a 10 both start with the number 1, this seems like an honest mistake that anyone could make. At this point, they'll ask if you have another 10. If you do, they'll trade you the $1 bill for that $10 bill. If you don't, they'll trade you the $11 back for the original 20. In either scenario, you walk away with $9 fewer than when you started. Now, this one is easy to avoid. Just don't break money for random people on the street. I mean, most people don't actually need 2 10s when you think about it. Any reputable business is going to be able to accept and break a $20 bill. Plus, there are plenty of banks that already offer this service. The next scam is the fake monk scam. I see these guys pop up on the National Mall every once in a while. And it's really frustrating. The way that this one works is that someone dressed up like a monk will try to hand you a bracelet as you walk by. Once you've taken it, they'll say that you now owe them a donation, and they'll get pretty aggressive about collecting. And if you say no thanks and try to give them the original bracelet back, they'll refuse it and say, since you've already touched it, they can't take it back. Which is total nonsense, but that's the story. I actually don't have a photo of these guys operating in DC. But I did find this one from New York City, where there is a similar scam. The way to avoid this one is also simple. Just don't take things from people on the street. If someone tries to give you something, just say no thanks and keep walking. Oh, and if you're traveling with kids, make sure they know to do this as well, as that's another way they'll try to get you. This third scam is a relatively new one, but it could be the costliest of them all. It's called the Venmo Scam. The way that it works is that someone will approach you with a story about how they're in distress and they really need to use your phone to make a call. If you give them your phone, they'll fumble around with it for a little while, shaken up and acting like they can't figure out how to use it, while they continue to tell you their story to distract you. Eventually, they'll pretend to make a call to someone, talk for a few seconds, hang up, and give the phone back. And if you check the call log later, you might notice they never even made a call. Instead, what they were doing is while they were distracting you with the story, they were trying to find your Venmo app to send money from your account to one that they own. The unfortunate thing about this scam is that it's really hard to go complain to Venmo and get your money back, because there's really no way to prove you didn't willingly send the money. Okay, so there are a few tips to avoid this one. First, don't ever give someone your phone unlocked. Second, make sure to turn on the security settings on Venmo or PayPal or any other financial app that you have on your phone so that you can't send any money without first typing in a PIN or at least scanning your fingerprint. Now, if someone seems like they're in distress and it might be legitimate, offer to call 911 on their behalf, rather than letting them use your phone to make some random call. This next one involves Metro and SmarTrip cards. If you've watched any of my Metro videos, then you know you need a SmarTrip card in order to ride. The way that this scam works is that someone out in public will offer to sell you a SmarTrip card. They'll often sweeten the deal by saying that it has $10 on it, and they'll sell it to you for $5. They might even be standing next to an actual Metro machine to show you that it really does have $10 on it. Now, SmarTrip has this great feature where you can register your card online, and if you ever lose it, you can transfer the balance that's on the card to a new one, which I've actually taken advantage of before when I lost my own card. The problem is that the con artist is taking advantage of that for this scam. They'll buy and register a bunch of SmarTrip cards on an account. Then wait for one of those people to load up their SmarTrip with a bunch of money. Then they'll report it lost and transfer the money to a new card that they own. The good news is this one's also easy to avoid. Since you can buy a SmarTrip card at any Metro station, Just buy a SmarTrip card at the metro station. Now, the next couple of scams you'll need to watch out for if you're staying at an Airbnb or some other type of home rental. The Neighbor Bruce scam goes by a lot of different names, but it generally works the same way. In the evening, someone will knock on your door. They'll probably be dressed in a shirt and tie or other nice work clothes. The con artist will say he's your neighbor from across the street, that he got a ride home with a coworker, but only once he got to his door did he realize he left his keys and wallet back at the office. And he says he needs $50 for a taxi to get back there. But once he retrieves his wallet and comes back home, he'll happily pay you back with interest. Now, of course, since you don't actually live in the neighborhood, you have no idea who the neighbors are. If you hesitate, Neighbor Bruce will claim that he has a grill or some other expensive item outdoors that he can drag across the street as collateral, if you insist. And if you say yes, he'll just disappear and never come back. But he knows that most people won't actually call the bluff and just give him the cash instead. The way to avoid this one is to simply not open the door at your Airbnb if someone comes knocking. You don't live there, so unless you ordered food or are expecting some other kind of delivery, there's no reason you need to open the door for anyone. Another one to watch out for is the utility company scam. In this one, a team of usually 2 people will knock on the door and say they work for the electric company or Verizon, and that they need to come inside and do some sort of systems check, when the real reason they want in is to gain access to the property for whatever nefarious reason. Again, the way to avoid this one is to simply not open the door. And even if you do, just say that they need to come back when the homeowner's around. If the homeowner needs the utility to come out and do something, that's their responsibility, not yours. And this last one applies for when you're looking for a place to stay. The fake rental scam is one where someone will put up an ad for a rental for a home that they don't even own. It is incredibly easy to download high quality photos of real homes from real estate websites and make a convincing ad. If you fall for it, you'll pay money to the scammer, show up at someone's home, and only when you're standing on the front stoop, realize that the person inside doesn't have your money and has no idea what's going on, and that their home was never actually for rent. Of course, because that person has never touched your money or been involved, there's really nothing they can do to help you. These scams are most prevalent on sites like Craigslist, but they can and do pop up on more legitimate websites as well. The best way to avoid it, if you're looking for a home rental, is first, only use reputable sites like Airbnb or VRBO, but that alone isn't enough. You also need to be extremely careful with new listings that doesn't sound like anyone has actually stayed there before, or just book a hotel. I've got several videos and a podcast about home rentals if you want to go down this road. So check out the video description for the link. And hey, if you made it this far, then I highly recommend another Trip Hacks DC video. So go ahead and click or tap right over here to watch the next one. And if you're coming to DC and want to sign up for a Trip Hacks DC guided tour, you can click or tap on the Capitol Dome on the left side of my head. That'll send you right over to triphacksdc.com, where you can see all of the tours that we offer. Enjoy your trip.